Buenos dias, good morning, and good afternoon, and welcome to my channel, Divine Esme, where we talk a lot about healing the inner child, your inner wounds, and working towards developing your most authentic and most divine self. So I know I've been on a little bit of a break, but I am back and I'm ready to share content with you guys. And today we're going to be talking about shadow work, which has been all over the social media outlets. And I think it's such an important topic to discuss, especially if you are embarking in your healing journey. So if you'd love to hear more, please stay tuned. Hello everyone, and welcome to my channel, Divine Esme, and today we're going to be talking about shadow work. So I know shadow work has been in the center of a lot of different social media outlets, specifically TikTok. I've seen so much in TikTok about shadow work, what it is, what people want it to be, how you can work on yourself, how you can really go in and dig in deep through shadow book journals and all of these different things. Now, shadow work is one of the most important things that you can actually embark on when you are healing. And the reason why is because shadow work is actually something where we go and we dig in deep within ourselves, within our childhoods. We might be looking at patterns of behavior. We might be looking at just a whole bunch of different things of what made us who we are. And the thing about it is that it is really something that is sort of made out to be very glamorous in a sense in the social media world. But the thing is, it's really not all that glamorous. And when you are actually working on yourself and you're doing the shadow work, you are digging in to places that you may have suppressed from your childhood, that you may have suppressed in your early adult life, or just in general, just feelings and emotions and situations that you've possibly suppressed for a very long time. So when you're doing shadow work, you're actually digging in very, very deep and looking into those wounds. And if you're not necessarily ready to actually look into those wounds, here's where it can get a little tricky for you. So when you're doing shadow work and you end up figuring out that possibly there is something that may have happened in your childhood and you're now seeing some correlation with certain triggers that have been happening in your adult life and you really didn't understand it, but now it's kind of like right in your face. And if you're not ready to hear that, that can ultimately lead into self-injurious behaviors. It can lead to further avoidance behaviors. It can lead into isolation. It can lead into relationships that kind of just fall apart because they're not what you thought they were. But that's not to say that you shouldn't be doing this work. That's not to say that at all. I think everyone benefits from doing some level of shadow work. And I actually do have the journal. I have looked at it. My partner actually has it and does work on it, and I think it is beneficial. There's a lot of great stuff on it. But I also know as a licensed clinical social worker that it is beneficial to also be able to engage in talking to someone in a therapeutic environment while you're going through the shadow work. It's really good for you to be able to identify supports. And yes, maybe therapy isn't for everyone. It's not necessarily something that people may believe in or not, and I'm not here to sell that to you. But I'm here to kind of have everyone understand that when you're doing shadow work, you have to have a foundation of support because it can get very lonely. And if you don't have people that you trust and that really have been supportive of you and can be understanding of you and can sort of bring you back into the present moment and help you ground yourself, especially when you're struggling to ground yourself in those situations of where you are digging deep into these wounds, it can be a problem. It can lead into further frustrations. And again, it can lead into social isolation, which is not the goal of shadow work. Shadow work is really where someone is digging in so deep to be able to fix all these patterns of behaviors, to be able to fix all the things that are basically limiting you from being your best and your most authentic self. They might be limiting you from living out to your best potential, from being able to go and take your job promotions, from being able to embark in traveling if that's something you're into, or being able to become a parent. I mean, it could really be anything. But if you don't have that ground level of support, Again, it could be therapy, it could be family, it could be friends, it could be anyone who you identify as your support. Because yes, blood sometimes is thicker than water, but it's not the case for everyone. Some of us come from broken relationships with our family and with our parents, etc., etc. So I'm not saying that you should be looking into having support from these folks. I'm not saying that at all if they are unhealthy for you, because again, part of the shadow work is that you are identifying people that are healthy for you. But I think it's crucial for you to be able to have some level of support so that your mind doesn't deceive you. So when you are actually embarking in this journey, you're able to kind of see some of the things that are realistic and some of the things that are unrealistic, or some of the things that maybe you have perceived in one way and it wasn't necessarily that way. Because when you are healing and when you have experienced significant trauma, it's really difficult to trust people. So as you're learning about yourself and as you're learning to trust people, eventually you'll get there and you'll be able to kind of see those relationships for what they are. But when we're highly traumatized and then you are going back and digging deep, your mind can play tricks on you sometimes, and it can look like maybe the people that you thought were supportive of you all of a sudden aren't, because you're kind of digging into all these patterns. So I really want you guys to be able to do the work, but also understand that it's really important to you not only to do it in a journal, but also process it with people that are your support. Process it by learning about your heritage, by learning about your culture, by learning about all the things that make your family who they are, by learning about those cycles and breaking them. But at the same time, also building that support that is so necessary to have when you are in a dark place. Support is essential when you are in a dark place. So for me personally, I've been engaged in therapy now going on 3 years. And even though I'm a therapist myself, and people might say, well, aren't you a therapist? Don't you have it all figured out? Aren't you supposed to be able to heal yourself? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I myself need to be able to have someone to work with me on these feelings, on these thoughts, on these emotions that I am feeling. Because if I don't, I can deceive myself too, or I can neglect to fix these issues as well. So I myself engage in therapy, and I make sure that I utilize that time to process a lot of the things that I'm thinking about and working towards them. And also looking into my supports and talking to them about certain things as well, asking questions about my childhood, asking questions about my family and all the cycles. I have been doing that work. So I think it's important for everyone to be able to engage in that. And I think as therapists, sometimes, in the therapeutic community, we're not always willing to seek help, or we're not always willing to admit that maybe we are struggling, and that, it's a problem in itself in a whole other video. But I think it's important for us to be able to share as therapists, to share the importance of, if you're going to embark in this shadow work journey, please, please, please do your research. Please gain support. Please understand that as you're working through some of this, you have to have a safety net. You have to be able to develop what we call essentially a crisis safety plan, that if you decide to go into this really dark place, there has to be a way for you to be able to come out of it. And I want that for everybody. So wholeheartedly, I want everyone to be able to heal themselves, because there is so much power to healing. And now there are people that are kind of what they're saying, there's folks that are getting woke, right? The woke community. And that is great. That is lovely. I love that. I love that there are books out there that are not being perceived as something that is bad or anything like that, because sometimes, in therapy, it could be perceived as something that's poor in certain cultures and communities, because people don't necessarily want to talk about their feelings, or maybe they were never given the opportunity to be open in a therapeutic environment. But please don't only get your shadow work from the internet. Don't only get your shadow work from TikTok, from Instagram, from Facebook, from whatever. Please make sure that you are doing your research and that you are learning about the benefits of shadow work, but also understanding that, again, you need that sense of security. You need that sense of safety, especially when you're going back and digging into those wounds. I want all of you to be safe. And if you have any questions, if you would love to understand a little bit more about what I'm saying, please feel free to comment, like, and share. Please, let's continue to build on this community. And I want everyone to know that shadow work is great. I love it. Gain some support, do the work, but keep yourself safe. Thank you for joining in on the channel today. I look forward to talking to you all soon. Bye.